Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. For those of you who don't know who I am retired Major Brenda Sanchez, and I am the co-founder of Life's Real Currency with my husband, Michael Sanchez. And I bring you these Military Mondays every single Monday morning at 8 a.m. Mountain Time to highlight local business owners, or now with the state of the country and the world. I actually now am doing them via Zoom, so I can interview you anywhere in the world. So if you are a veteran business owner, or if you're the spouse of a veteran and have a business, I would love to have a conversation with you and see if you would be a good fit for my Military Mondays. Also, if you find value in these Military Monday interviews, please pass it on to your network. Let's give some love to these veteran business owners that I interview, because today I have the amazing Dylan on. Dylan is an Air Force Special Ops guy, retired, and now is the owner of Dart Wars here in Colorado Springs. But as I put in the post, he is also national, not local, national veteran-owned business of the year. So I am super honored to have him on today and share a little bit about his military experience and what he is up to today. So welcome, Dylan.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me, Brenda. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I see the arena behind you. That's your Dart Wars arena, right?
That is, yes. Love this technology. Makes it look like I'm there floating above the arena.
So tell us a little bit about your background in the military. And you actually were married to another military member, so dual spouse, dual officers even, which is quite the challenge. So tell us a little bit about your military career, and then we'll talk about what you're doing today.
Yeah. So the quick couple-minute version is, I grew up in a little beach town in Southern California, decided I wanted to get out of California, and I was recruited to play football by the Air Force Academy. I didn't even come out there to visit. I just said, yep, that's what I want to do. I want to go to the mountains. So I committed to the Air Force Academy. So went there, graduated. And, I had a pretty unique career. I stayed there for a year and coached football after I graduated. So that's not a bad job as a brand new second lieutenant. Then I got into OSI, Office of Special Investigation, because at the time, nothing was going on. And I thought, there's no way anything's going to be happening. So I gave up my pilot slot because I didn't want to fly the rest of my life. And went into OSI, and because I thought, hey, I'll do my 4-year commitment and I'll get into the FBI or something like that. Obviously, 9/11 changed a lot of things. And at the time I was working counterintelligence, and I was seeing what special operations was doing. I mean, literally from day one of that. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I turned in my badge and went through selection, and been doing combat control ever since. So I met my wife just before I started the pipeline, the 2-year pipeline. And we were long distance dating for a couple years. It seemed to work out for us because we ended up getting married, and she's a cyber officer. And so it was good that she had her career and, knew what basically she and I were getting into. And because as a team guy, I was deployed quite a bit. I was for about 7 years. I was deployed about 250 days a year. Once we hit the height of 2 wars, there was just no slowing down. Then in roughly 2011-ish, I broke my back and had to get surgery and became a staff guy. And it was, a lot of people really hate going into the staff world, but once I started being able to take my kids to school every day, and nobody was trying to kill me on a daily basis, I was loving it. I'd come into work and people were like, how in the world are you enjoying this? But just the fact that I wasn't deployed all the time just really, it was tough. I missed being a team guy, but it was just awesome being able to see my kid at the time. So I think that outweighed the, the fun of being a team guy. So then, fast forward, we moved around quite a bit as everybody does, and then ended up here in Colorado Springs. Got to finish up my time actually coaching football at the academy. So not a bad last assignment. And once I got out, then it was that real challenge of, hey, what do I want to do when I grow up, right?
Yeah. So you started your career coaching and
Yep.
ended your career coaching. So you've told me the story of Dart Wars, and I want you to share with the audience, the viewers watching right now, how did Dart Wars come about? What was it that made you decide to go into business and own a Dart Wars?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think my son was roughly, I think he was 10 at the time, and he was driving us crazy. And my wife Deborah finally said, hey, get out of the house. You two go do a father-son thing. So we actually went to Overdrive, and they wouldn't let us drive on the same track. So I was like, but I mean, nobody's here. And they got their rules. I got it. But they're like, hey, you guys have to be on different tracks. And I'm like, well, we're trying to do something together. And they just wouldn't budge on it. So we left. And I remember seeing the old Dart Wars, because it was in business with a Z. I was like, hey, you want to go do this? And he's like, no way. He thought it was airsoft. So he thought it was going to hurt and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, I think it's just Nerf guns. So we went there and we had a blast together. No pun intended. But we had a great time. Then my daughters got involved, and we were really just having fun there. And then just one day, all of a sudden, the place shut down. Note taped on the door just saying, hey, permanently closed. And to me, I was going in there. Every time I was going in there, I was kind of gathering intel, because I was like, man, if I can open something like this would be so much fun. If I can open something like this up in North Colorado Springs, I'd be willing to try to compete with these guys. Because when you're not in charge, it's always easy to go, hey, this is how I would run things. It would be really easy. And that was my mentality. But, I knew capital wise, it was more of a pipe dream than an operational, hey, get things done part of it. It was a reality. I was like, I don't think there's a way that I'd be able to get that kind of capital to start this. Well, when they shut down, I had just bought some passes from them like 2 days prior to shutdown. And I'm like, you guys, you had to have known that you were going to shut down, and you took my money anyway. So in that process of trying to get that money back, I ended up buying it. So it was a whirlwind, literal 3 weeks. I had what my wife calls my big boy job. I had a standard desk job up in Denver, really great job. I had it for about 3 months at the time, and I quit and focused on just opening Dart Wars.
And how long how long have you owned, because it was open prior to you, but how long have you owned Dart Wars now, Dylan, here in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, so I reopened the end of March 2019. So roughly about a year and a half, just short of a year and a half.
And of course, with COVID, you got shut down for a few months, and that obviously was a challenge. But you are back open, and we wanted to let people know that you're back open. That's why I wanted to have you on. You were also just named national, not local, but national veteran-owned business of the year. And you and I were talking before we went live about that, and it kind of caught you by surprise and out of the blue, and you were wondering, is this really for real, or is this a scam? So tell us a little bit about, that process. And you just, a month, 2 months ago were named?
Yeah, it was about a month and a half. Yeah, so close to 2 months ago, received the award. But yeah, it was very much a surprise, because I don't know who nominated me. It's from a law firm out of Omaha, Nebraska. So not even anywhere near here. But but I got an initial email, basically just asking for information to verify a lot of things. And my first glance at it, with the tons of emails that I get, I just thought, oh, this is a scam. And I didn't delete it, got distracted. But ended up a couple days later, started looking, I was like, wait a minute, let me check this thing out. And then I started Googling the company and the award, and it seemed legit. And so I, started contact with them, and then submitted all the stuff they needed from me, and ended up receiving the award. So it was an awesome honor. So again, really very much a surprise. Kind of like the best of the springs. We received 4 awards, and one of them being a day trip, best places for a day trip. And number 1 was the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. Number 2 was Garden of the Gods, and number 3 was us. And I'm like, wait, we're kind of not even in the same category.
That's pretty cool.
It is. So it's been a great year and a half. But yeah, shutdown was very tough. Now, luckily, I got some good mentoring from folks I know that have been in business, because this is all everything's new to me. I'm learning every day, right? Got some great advice from some successful folks in business that said, hey, they didn't take paychecks. They just reinvested everything, those kind of little things, or it seems little, but again, no one could have imagined the state of affairs our planet's in right now. Right.
Exactly.
And especially on the business side of the house, or, the economy side of the house. And luckily I had kind of this reserve, because I was literally just about to sign to open up a second Dart Wars, one up in Denver. I had pretty good cash on hand, and I was like, well, why am I just letting all this cash sit there? I should start paying myself, and, all that kind of stuff. Then this happened, and luckily, I had that cash on hand to make it through the 3 months being shut down and having to weather, because guess what? You still got to pay your bills, because
yeah.
I rent the building, so they still have mortgages and all the bills that still need to be paid. And so we've been able to weather that and get back open, and we're steadily climbing as far as people coming in and all that kind of stuff. But it's just really getting the word out that, hey, we are open.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely get the word out today that you're open, and you're located off of Barnes. Is it considered a Barnes address, or you're right by Costco?
Exactly. So there's a tiny little cut through road right on the other side of Barnes, and it's called Championship View. Basically, Costco had that put in so that people could come off of Barnes or another road and get to Costco. So, but the bottom line is, right off of Powers and Barnes, there's that giant Costco. You can't miss it, and we're right behind them. We're right there next to them.
And it's a great way to do things with your family. I mean, even if there's nobody else in the arena and it's just you and your kids, it'd be a great getaway and social isolation, because it's just you and your family, your kids, or your neighbors, or things that people you've been hanging out with. It's a great way to get out and get some exercise and do something other than sit at home. So highly recommend going out and checking out Dylan and Dart Wars. And the last thing I want to ask you, Dylan, is you just kind of talked about weathering business and the storms of business, but you also transitioned out of active duty. You had a job in Denver, you quit to do this. What would you say, what advice would you give somebody that maybe, hopefully they're 3 to 5 years out, but maybe they're punching their ticket right now, or they're planning within the next 6 months to retire or get out of the service? What recommendations do you have for them? And what skills do you think the military bring to being a business owner, so that I just see so many people that they keep in the box and they don't think outside the box, and they go right into government work or something directly into what they were doing in the service that may or may not sometimes it is truly their passion, but a lot of times it's not. So what words of advice do you have for somebody?
No, that's a fantastic, synopsis and question, because we see that a lot, right? You see people doing the safe thing and the comfortable thing, because again, I think it's, I don't know if it's fair to paint the generality that, hey, people go right into what they're comfortable, because you know what, sometimes everybody's situation is totally different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, my wife, she was still active duty, so we still had her full-time paycheck, and then I'm getting my retirement paycheck. Luckily we had all our bills paid off, so we entered retirement, so to speak. I entered retirement with a huge safety net under me, with again my sugar mama wife being active duty still, and getting a paycheck for just waking up. Okay, so obviously it's easier for me to take a risk, if you will. So starting off with that, but really the biggest thing I think is amazing about the military that transitions directly into the civilian world, into opening your own business, that kind of thing, is the fact of being able to manage chaos. That's the biggest thing. The first step I would say is you have to mission prep. You have to get ready for retirement. If you're ready to punch out and you haven't looked at the real world yet, you are definitely behind the power curve. So I was the opposite. I knew I was getting out at 20. Not that I didn't love what I did. It's just I knew that chapter of my life was done. I gave enough, and I was gone enough to where, hey, I want to try something else, to where I control my own destiny, in the sense of I don't have Uncle Sam telling me everything I'm doing, right? Which was great, but I knew for me, that's what I wanted. So transition wasn't hard for me. I know it's hard for a lot of folks. Our identities are wrapped up into what we've done the past 20 plus years, right? So, and that's especially for, folks retiring. It happens even with folks that are, getting out with 10 years in. I mean, you invest a lot of yourself into the military. So I recognize that, but at least for me, I was lucky that I was cutting bait. I was good. I didn't have any problems. I tried to convince my wife that when she retired, to get a great job and I could be a stay-at-home dad. I would have loved that. I don't need a job, but so I was lucky that I got to kind of pursue what I thought was my passion. So initially, when I got out, I had a job as a race director for Spartan Race, which, at the time was the largest obstacle course racing company in the world. And I got to jump right into the pinnacle job as being a race director, leading 80 to 100 people, multi-million-dollar races with 20, 30,000 people rolling through in a weekend. And it was amazing. 10 out of 10 job. But my wife reminded me, hey, knucklehead, you didn't get out to be gone 100 plus days a year again. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I did my contract with them, and then got what, again, the big boy job up in Denver. So I was lucky. I say lucky, but that was a lot of mission prep. I started 2 years out, because now I was a little overzealous, because started the whole process. I think we went through TAP a couple times and boots to business. So I highly recommend, one, plan out, figure out what you want to do, what you're comfortable with, what are your skill sets. Obviously people tell you that all the time. And sometimes a lot of my skill sets weren't going to translate into normal things. So, I mean, I did get an offer to go do contract work where I was going to be deployed 2 months, home 2 months, deployed 2 months. And I was like, that is awfully not what I want. I mean, that is probably the worst thing I could be offered right now. But when they showed me what the paycheck would be, I was like, ooh, maybe. And I already told them no, but I showed Deborah what the paycheck would be. And she's like, ooh, maybe we can make that work.
Yeah, sometimes, especially here in Colorado Springs with the contract job, sometimes that, I think the paycheck tends to sometimes sway people towards something because of the money, instead of because of what they're really passionate about, or what they really want for their, not just for themselves, but for their family.
Well, yeah, and that I think all that flapping of my gums was really to make that point, is that there's some people that, I mean, they're the sole, whether it's the guy or the gal that's getting out, they're the sole breadwinner, right? And so they're in a position where they still have a mortgage and car payments and all the bills that come along with it, and school and all that, right? You know, they have life to pay for, and so sometimes you don't have the luxury to be able to take a risk that you know could, you know, statistically not end well. Okay. But I guess one of the things with my background that is lended to where I'm at today is taking risks. And I think, you know, you manage, you calculate, they're calculated risks, but to some people they seem very, very not calculated, but like my wife. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I've done and have learned is kind of the norm for me, is sometimes jumping into things that most people would analyze a little more and think not a chance. And, you know, I took a lot of risk with getting into Dart Wars. But I think that translated directly from just what I've been doing the past, you know, 15 years of being an operator. Again, we you know, I don't want to paint it the way we just take risks and you know, woo, here we go. But there are a lot of risks within, you know, special operations, and sometimes you got to mitigate those, or you do the best to mitigate risks. But there's still risk out there, and that's just everyday life. You know,
I was going to say, that's military life. You
Yep.
don't have to be in special ops. There's what,
Exactly.
2% of the population that'll even join the military. You already put yourself in a high risk because you don't know where your career will take you in the world, or, you know, what type of situation you'll be put in. But I do think, you know, as you say that, not all of my guests have talked about that, but I do think that the military tends to be, and I don't want to stereotype, but tends to be people that are more willing to take risks, because if they weren't risk takers, the majority of them, some come in just for the discipline in that, but the majority of them, they came into the military and they knew there was a risk of going to war, of you know, suiting up, carrying a gun, and their life being on the line. So I think that helps when you're go into business, because you have that mitigating risk. We've learned to do that. I mean, like you said, survey the situation and weigh the risks and rewards, and you make a mission decision. And so I really appreciate the time that you've given us today. And I wish for all of our viewers that if you are considering getting out of the service, or you are definitely getting out in the next 6 months to 3 years, please reach out to veterans like Dylan, like myself, to veteran organizations. We have Mount Carmel here. We have a VetNet, Veterans Networking Group. We have MRE, which is Military Resourceful Entrepreneurs, that I run on one Friday a month. There are lots of organizations out there to help you to make that transition. Prep Connect 360 with Nanette Mueller, Breda, I guess it's Breda. You know, she's was just named Veteran of the Year here in Colorado Springs by one of the news channels. But she runs that program. There are lots and lots of opportunities for people transitioning here, especially in Colorado Springs. So no matter where you are, it doesn't matter if you're in Colorado Springs. I'm sure Dylan will have a conversation with you no matter where you are in the world, and I will also. So please reach out to us. We'd love to help you with that transition. And again, if you are a veteran, or you're the spouse of a veteran and you have a business, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you and maybe highlight you on my Military Mondays. So with that, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in today. Dylan, thank you, thank you, thank you. And congratulations on your National Veteran of the Year Award. And I see great things for Dart Wars in Colorado Springs. So reach out to him and go have some fun. Go play with your kids or, you know, over at Dart Wars. So have a great day, everyone. See you next Monday.
Thank you.